won the Super Bowl. A magnificent triumph for Bill Walsh.
This is a tough moment in a way, because was this the final game on the sideline for a great coach, Bill Walsh? Emotional moment right now with the coach down here inside the locker room, Jack. And he tells me, and he hadn't told anybody else publicly, that this is it. He's stepping away, retiring. And
I feel fortunate. You know, I've inherited something that's to be cherished and taken care of. I don't envision at this time any particular major changes along the lines of the way we operated this past year.
Montana gives to Rathman into the middle. Loose ball at about the 18, and the Rams recover.
We had lost to the Los Angeles Rams early in the year. The game following them was in New Orleans.
This is the ball game right now.
And had we lost that game, it would have been 2 losses in a row to division teams. It would have stymied things quite a bit, I believe, particularly being a new head football coach.
Hebert straight back drop, lets it go over the middle. It is knocked down by Eric Wright with a sensational defensive effort on Merriman. Oh, what a play by Wright.
We knew that we were the team to beat, and now we just got to go out there and just lay everything on the football field.
The Niners were just rolling through everybody.
Just dragging tacklers again.
I mean, defensively, you have a young Bill Romanowski, you have Ronnie Lott, you have a lot of guys that are just like Hall of Famers.
Pressure by Haley, and the ball slips out of his hands.
I just remember us, man, just going and, and just lighting it up.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so I came in '89.
Matt Millen brought a little of that old Raider mentality to the 49ers.
Al Davis would call me and say, who wins, the '83 Raiders or the 49ers? And I would say, oh man, that's a hard one. Because Montana at his best.
Montana steps back, throws for the end zone. Brett Jones all alone, touchdown 49ers.
Jerry Rice at his best.
He wants it all. Rice is out there. He's to the 20, 10, 5, touchdown 49ers.
John Taylor, everybody forgets about him.
As Taylor makes the catch, eludes Irvin, eludes Newman, chased by Kelm. Down the sidelines he goes. He ran 92 for a touchdown before. He's in again. 96 yards.
We were working on all cylinders. The way we could go into a hostile environment and just completely take the fans out.
So the Niners go unbeaten on the road this season.
Yeah, come on, here we come to New Orleans.
Let's welcome the champions of the National Football Conference, the San Francisco 49ers.
We know we're the best team. Let's just go out and prove it today.
I remember my mom had a Super Bowl party. My mom's family's all from Denver, and all of her family's there in orange and blue, and I'm her little 6-year-old kid's running around in red and gold, just like, yeah! And she's like, in the Super Bowl that year, 49ers just put an ass whooping on the Broncos.
Come back across the middle, complete to Rice, into the end zone, touchdown 49ers. Wright throws to Brent Jones, he's into the end zone, touchdown 49ers. Jerry Rice, oh what a catch, Jerry Rice, touchdown 49ers for the end zone, Taylor, touchdown 49ers.
49er offense has beaten the Denver Bronco defense every way a defense can be beaten.
The boys is going to party tonight. Back to back.
Thank you to a man that came in a situation that wasn't exactly easy, and he is your coach.
You know, John, you and I have been around this game of pro football a long time. This might be the best football team I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would think the same thing.
We were the dynasty.
Back to back.
Number one.
What we were able to accomplish, you know, is something I'll never forget. The team of the 80s.
The '84 team to me was the best team that we had, but it also had something that we had lost the year before from the Redskins game.
San Francisco and Washington tied up at 21, 2 minutes left to play.
Back is Theismann, lofts it into the air for Garrett, in the end zone, knocked away beautifully. Another flag.
Holding, number 42, automatic first down.
There was a holding call on me, and at the end of the game, and
To this day, I still say that it wasn't a holding call. It's a tough loss, tough game. I know I was on a mission. It was burning inside me that we had to get back. When you had arguably the greatest defensive line put together, all four of the defensive backs, we go to the Pro Bowl that year.
Drops back to throw a pass, and it is intercepted.
And before you know it, now our defense is just as good, maybe even one of the best ever.
You see Ronnie Lott come flying in, that's the way it has to be played.
That team was just loaded, from the brilliance of Bill Walsh as coach to Joe Montana, who I always considered the greatest quarterback ever until Tom Brady.
With 1 minute and 39 seconds left, going back to pass, stops, throws, into the end zone, caught by Solomon, touchdown, 49ers!
Felt stacked. We felt like we had everything.
As Montana drops back to pass, he's got some running room over there. If he can't find a receiver, fakes once, runs, drives into the end zone, touchdown, 49ers!
Bill preached this idea of excellence.
We're a precision machine. That was our personality. A machine that just effectively and precisely destroyed the opponent.
The bar kept just rising and rising and rising. We wanted more and more and more.
Looking toward the end zone, now throwing, fires.
Excellence, when it's done correctly, it's hard to beat.
The '84 team was the all-time great for the Niners from this standpoint. You go 15-1. You go to the Super Bowl and you're playing Dan Marino at that time, who was just lighting up everyone.
Perfectly thrown pass by Dan Marino.
And you completely shut down that team.
Marino has to get something started.
Who could forget Roger Craig? 3 touchdowns in that game.
Craig goes in for a touchdown. That goes down there. A handoff given to Craig. Batters his way to the goal line. He goes in for a 49er touchdown.
High stepping into the end zone.
Going back to pass on 3rd and 10 Montana. Looks over the left side. Caught by Craig on the way to the end zone. And Craig goes in for the score.
Brilliant game plan for Bill Walsh. Everything has been to perfection.
They took a Dolphin team that had been steamrolling people offensively and made it inept, really. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
Coach Walsh, there ought to be a bigger word than congratulations for all that we saw tonight and what you and that team of yours have accomplished.
Well, I tell you, they've given it all year, Mr. President. This is the greatest football team, the greatest group of people I've ever been around.
I look back at that '84 team and the run we had, losing only 1 game was phenomenal. Some people would say the '89 team was better. '84 team was our best team.
We do love our football in St. Louis, and I grew up watching the Cardinals. The Cardinals played in the NFC East, and in the '70s it was all about the Redskins and the Cowboys, 2 teams that I hate to this day. So I thought, what better way to get back at the Cowboys than to root for the Steelers? I was a very proud front runner for the Steelers and still am.
Well, I personally think that was the best team that was ever put together. Obviously, being on it, I'm a little biased, but 9 Hall of Famers on that team, and Chuck Noll, who I think is the greatest coach in the history of the game.
The Pittsburgh Steelers ended the 1978 season dreaming of a return to the Super Bowl.
I love Terry Bradshaw, and I love Mean Joe Green, and I love L.C. Greenwood, and I love Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier. And they had a guy on their team named Jack Ham, which was about as close as you could get to my name.
It was just a special year, offense, defense together at the high point. They had just changed the rules, and our passing game just began to flourish.
Here is Bradshaw giving the ball to Bleier. Bleier reverses it to Swan. He gives it back to Bradshaw. Bradshaw firing for Cunningham. A Pittsburgh touchdown. How about that?
It's ironic that the reason Terry Bradshaw was able to generate so much offense with his arm is because his cornerback ended up hitting a guy so hard that they changed the rules in the NFL. The Mel Blount rule really helped Terry Bradshaw. The corners had to back off a little bit and give receivers room to move. And once that happened, they gave Bradshaw weapons, and they gave him the confidence. The picks came down, the TDs went up.
Our passing game really opened up, and it was beautiful to watch. Swan and Stallworth, I mean, these guys were incredible. It really changed the game for us.
We were a different ball club. We were prepared and ready and anxious to throw the football more than we ever had before.
Which team is pro football's best? The Cowboys of Dallas, last year's champions, or the Steelers of Pittsburgh, this year's winningest team?
The Steelers receiver.
Coming back after having won 2 Super Bowls and missing the next 2 years, it almost felt like, okay, we're just back in the same place and this is what we should be doing.
To be honest with you, the Steelers was just rock solid at every position. On defense, with that steel curtain.
Staubach is back deep, and he winds up and throws. Intercepted by Blood at the 20.
Joe Green broke through to nail Staubach and caused the fumble.
On offense, weapons, Lynn Swan, Stallworth catching ball.
Deep for Stallworth in the end zone. Touchdown!
40, 45, 50, 45, 40, gone.
Running the ball with Franco.
Terry Bradshaw giving the ball to Franco through the middle, down over the 15 to 10 to 5. Touchdown, Pittsburgh.
And of course, Bradshaw, who was a big game player.
Swan makes his circus catch in the end zone. Unbelievable catch for the touchdown.
It's hard to pick the best team for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s.
The first team in the history of the NFL to win it 3 times.
The important part of it for me is that the core of our team never changed. It was trusted, it was tested, and it was championship.
The greatest team that have ever taken the field, it's not even a debate. It's the 1985 Chicago Bears. Punky, rebellious, athletically gifted, smash mouth, boastful, a fantastic squad.
Oh man, the 85 Bears were like a breath of fresh air to Chicago.
Be smart, let's go down, let's pin him in, let the defense go to work.
Well, our defense was what made it special. I mean, Buddy and the defense, what they did, people didn't really understand the 46 defense. 8 men at the line of scrimmage, and you had to determine who was coming.
Underneath his crossbar, fires the right side of the ball, tipped in the air by Hampton, picked up by 10, spins to the end zone, touchdown!
Turn loose the horses now. Better get another quarterback in there, we coming.
One thing I like about the Bears, they've had a lot of fun winning.
We can't forget, all these years later, the audacity of a football team to drop a music video before the playoffs start about how we're gonna win the Super Bowl. They backed it up. We Are the Bears, shuffling crew, breaking it down, doing it for you.
It's not only the defense, but then it's the guys playing the defense.
They all bring something different to the dance.
And here's the craziest part. They get into the playoffs, shut out in the divisional round, shut out in the championship round.
And hammered down. He got the ball. Picked up by Wilbur Marshall. Marshall running across. Go on. Go. 30. 20. He'll go all the way. 15 yard. 5 touchdown. Let it go. Oh, man.
Sweet, huh? Sweet. They'll play either Miami or New England, but whoever they play is going to have their hands full.
The night before the Super Bowl, Buddy said, no matter what happens tomorrow, you guys will always be my heroes. And he turned and he walked out. Steve McMichael picked up the projector and he threw it through the chalkboard. And he knew at that point that New England had no chance.
What sounds like a heavily partisan Chicago crowd on hand here in the Louisiana Superdome.
Tell you what, this defense has been incredible. They knock your socks off just to watch them. Total decimation of the AFC champion New England Patriots. The snap to Grogan, the blitz is on, over the left side he goes.
That season and those characters assembled is sort of the big bang for me, so I can't say there's anybody better.
First and goal from the 1-yard line, handoff to the Yes, William Perry has scored on a 1-yard touchdown run in the Super Bowl. The Chicago Bears are world champions of football.
One of the questions that Mike Ditka must be asking himself now, what do we do for an encore?
Well, I didn't think that would be the only one.
And God bless you, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
I thought there would be more, I really did, but there wasn't.
If you're asking me where the 72 Dolphins that had a perfect season, from start to finish, from the first game to the Super Bowl, rates, I think it's fairly obvious. There's no question. It's the #1 team.
We had lost the Super Bowl the year before.
The Dallas Cowboys are the champions of Super Bowl VI.
In '72, all we wanted to do was get back to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl.
They call the Miami defense the no-name defense, or they used to, because they had obscure names of free agents, low draft picks, but by now they're all big names.
That defense, those guys were sensational. Two of the best safeties that ever played the game, and Dick Anderson and Jake Scott. Those two cats would give a quarterback some phony reads. Had me totally fooled with what defense it was going to be.
171 points all year. Lowest in the league, 26 interceptions. You think you can do everything against this defense, but for some reason they seem to stop you.
He spins, tries to get the hand off away. Hernandez comes in and almost steals the ball. He does!
And Nick Buoniconti was all over the field.
This defense has just been magnificent today.
Well, those Dolphins never cease to amaze me. They've given up the least points in the NFL. They've scored the most.
The Dolphin ground attack broke a 36-year-old record to become the greatest rushing team in NFL history and the first to have two 1,000-yard runners on the same squad.
That team will always be the greatest team ever to me. Mercury Morris, Jim Kick, Larry Zalka.
Give it a Zalka.
The greatest running attack in the history of football.
They're my backbone of my NFL experience.
We won the first 4 games, and then I got hurt, and here comes Earl Morrall. Earl won the ball game, won the next 10 games.
See, now he's going to run with the ball. 15, he might score. 10, 5, touchdown, Dolphins. They got him out of the rocking chair to play, and he runs one in.
Every game, we didn't think about going undefeated. That never even was mentioned.
The most impressive record in all of the National Football League. 10 games played, 10 games won.
We thought about winning the division.
This is a true effort today of 40 people wanting to be the first team in history to win 14 games in a regular season. So we're very proud of this football team.
And then we thought about winning in the playoffs.
Crossway, Zonk at the 5, gets off a tackler and goes in for a touchdown.
And then, once you get to the Super Bowl, you can't lose that game.
No team has ever come into the Super Bowl with an unblemished record. No team has ever won 17 games in a row in a professional football season. Miami is shooting for that record today. Greasy to the corner to Philly's got him! Philly! Touchdown!
The Dolphins have won Super Bowl VII, have completed the greatest season in NFL history.
They were the best that ever played when you come to the records, you know what I mean. Going undefeated, and we know the Patriots almost got there, but almost only counts in horseshoes and a few other things.
Another year. Another year.
I don't care how many times the other teams dominated, did things, they lost a friggin' game.
Perfection is good, right?
Perfection is perfection. Close? Get a cigar. There's only one team that drinks the champagne.
Here's the 40 years, and here's the 40 more. I salute you. Thank you.
Perfection is perfection, not shades of perfection. Perfection.